Hey, welcome to the Battle Brothers podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Thompson. Joining me today is Mark Hurdle and
Yo,
Zach Point. What's going on, Zach?
Hello, good to be here.
Zach, you are the Battle to End Alzheimer's winner. You are number one in ITC North America right now, and you're number three in the world. That's pretty darn impressive, especially since I'm probably in like 20,000th right now. So it's really cool to have you on your podcast. You're our first winner interview. This is episode 6, so we're excited to do this. We're glad we could got in touch with you, and we appreciate you being here. We're excited to get into everything. So, first off, Hobby Corner. We're going to go over what's on our hobby desk currently. I'm excited about the new World Eaters. I've got that on my desk right now, just building and painting. Mark, what you got?
I got nothing. My army is ready.
You are ready. And Zach, do you have anything on your Hobby Corner, or are you just kind of just ready for the next GT?
Believe it or not, I just finished painting up a ton of orcs, which I have now immediately gone and handed to another person because I don't need them anymore.
Yep.
And so now we're back to Eldar.
Okay, so you're switching it up. You're switching it up. Are you still planning on playing your Space Marines that you played at BEA, or are you going to Eldar?
I think I'm going to keep playing the Space Marines. That's a super fun list, so I'll probably stick with it.
And we're going to get into that because, spoiler alert, everybody, it is unique. If you didn't get a chance to watch the stream, I haven't even got to watch the stream yet. I was there. I went 3-3, so my Marines did not perform as well. But yeah, so other than that, 40K news, we got World Eaters and Death Eaters on the air, or Death Eaters. Oh god, that'd be cool. World Eaters and Death Guard on the horizon right now. So I'm excited for the new World Eaters. Death Guard's going to get some cool tricks. It's just nice to see some chaos love. So Zach, we're going to get into your 40K history. How did you get involved in this great game that we play?
For better or for worse, my 40K experience, I think, is exactly like most people's. In that, in like middle school, high school, super into the game. Terrible at it, but super into the game. Played a bunch, and then got distracted by going to school and living life. And then pretty much exactly when COVID hit, when I'm sitting there trying to find something to do with my time, I said to myself, I'll get some 40K. I'll paint it. I won't play because, it'll suck you in. I'll just paint it, and that'll be fun. And that worked great. So now it's been years later, but the game is a lot of fun to play. So I'm happy to be sucked in.
Yeah, that's how I'm 39 now. I remember I was in Boy Scouts and I'd go to like the weekend camps. We'd have Order of the Era. It was like this induction. Anyways, I'd go to camp. They'd all be playing it like in the chow hall, and I couldn't afford it at the time. My parents were going to spend. I mean, back then it was still expensive for the taste. And then when I got adult money, man, that's when I got into it. And then I've been off and on throughout the years. And yeah, it's crazy. And last time I played, when I got out, I was a meta chaser, and this time I decided I'm just going to do 1 or 2 armies and try to become a faction specialist. But yeah. You are currently playing Space Marines. This list, which we're going to go over in a minute, is this your normal play style, or do you have a normal play style that you usually approach the game with?
That's a great question. Short answer, no.
Okay.
I'm on a bit of a quest. As of like the beginning of 2025, actually, to be totally honest with you, I was playing a lot of Drukhari, and when they like extra double nerfed Drukhari from bad to terrible, I gave up and went on a little diaspora. To try and play a bunch of different armies so I can borrow from some friends. Luckily, I have a big network of friends that are super helpful, and then try different things. And so this has been my Space Marine phase, which I think has been the most fun phase, I will say.
So
Space Marines.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mark, when I got back, because I'm just getting back into this edition, and Mark and I have been friends for years. I guess we're closer friends now. We were more acquaintances before, but we've definitely grown as friends now. And I reached out to him. I was like, "Hey, man, can I steal your list?" Because I didn't know where to start. Mm-hmm. And I started Space Marines because, like, I'm going to go all in on World Eaters, but if they ever get nerfed like Drukhari, Space Marines will always be good. There will always be something to play, whether it's Ultramarines, Space Wolves, Black Templar. So, and they can be easy to get burnt out on, but they're just such a good faction not to. And there's so many different flavors you can do with it. And so, for people that don't know, that didn't listen to the last episode or know, Battle of the Ends Alzheimer's was a great tournament that raised over $40,000 for Alzheimer's, which is insane for us nerds to raise that much money for something like that. But it's also it was the biggest tournament in Maryland. It is the biggest tournament in Maryland. But it was also the second biggest in the world for that week, and I think Germany beat BEA by a couple players. and you won the thing. The competition was not easy. I mean, you had some big name hitters there. You had world champions there. You had LVO champions there. You had Nova. I mean,
Mark Turtle, LBO champion.
he
Well,
is.
we had me, we had Brett Perkins, and Matt Laura. So
And
3 former LVO champions there.
and it's funny. I feel like, and maybe I'm biased, the East Coast meta is the East Coast, and I'm not crapping on the West Coast, but I talk to my friends out west. Oh yeah, I won this RTT. I won this. Yeah, you're not competing against, you know, Zach Point, or you're not competing against Mark or TJ Lanigan, or I mean, people know these names, and in the 40K community, yeah, there's lots of players. It's pretty small. Like if you know someone's name, I mean, and these guys know me, which is kind of cool. I'll walk there and hey man, what's going on? I hadn't seen you in a while. Like Max Shuckman, I hadn't seen him in years. He knows who I am. It's just cool. Not celebrity status. We won't inflate y'all's egos that much, but people know who you are, and the fact that tournament. And nobody really traveled that far. I mean, it was all pretty local. Our meta on the East Coast is just insane.
It's
So
rad.
when people are listening to this, the fact that I mean, Mark, you want LVO, that is a great thing. This is like, besides Nova, I mean, this was a pretty hefty Mid-Atlantic kind of thing. So let's get in. Okay, your list it's not the standard list. Usually we're seeing Ballistus, Vindicator. Mark and I are running double land raiders, which I don't think many people are running, to be honest. I haven't seen it on the table. Or you're seeing Vanguard was a thing. I guess it's still kind of a thing. It's not really, but most of it is Iron Storm or Gladius with the Smash Captain, the Ballistus, Vindicators. That's pretty much what everybody's running. Or they'll run Storm Lance with the Storm Raven. You, however, brought some things that you never see on the table. Can you just go over your list and I guess also kind of give an overview of how you play this list? People are going to copy it. People are going to copy it anyways, but I'm curious how you play this list because I'm looking at it and I'm like, this list doesn't. I mean, I'm not a very good player. I'm like, this list doesn't look good. It looks horrible. Yeah. Go over your list and just explain how you run it.
The first thing I should say is that the list was not written by me. It was written by a guy named Sean Olson, who is a very good Space Marine specialist. He does coaching. I used his services to figure this out before the event. So just bear that in mind if you want to reach out to him. I don't know the best way to get in contact with him, but you can either reach out to me or he's on Discord and all around other communities. You'll probably know him, Sean Olson. But either way,
give him his plug. Yeah, I saw your copyright Sean Olson on there, and yeah, that's awesome.
Yes. You got to give him credit. He wrote the list. I took his list, and like for a week or so, I tried to test out various like changes, and I couldn't come up with anything that was better. So his list, I think, is the best way to do this thing. But I'll run through it.
Yep.
It's a Space Marine Ultramarines list. So out of the gate, like 700 points is locked down with no options. Marnie's Calgar with Company Heroes and Rabuti Gilladude. The man himself.
Gorilla Man.
You got to do it. They're too efficient not to take. And then you get to have infinite CP, which is pretty essential for how this works. The core of it then goes triple repulsor executioner. The Land Raider, no disrespect to the Land Raider. I would never say a bad word against the Land Raider around Mark. But the repulsor executioner is just very efficient for his points.
They do different things for different roles.
They do, yes. The repulsor is like more of a mid to long range, like just beefy unit that's shooting more than it really should. The thing has 7 guns on its data sheet. It's outrageous.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Land Raider is more like a mid-range, mid-table bully.
Yeah,
bully the midfield.
And it's a cool model, and they're bigger than you think they are. The repulsors.
Oh yeah, I mean they're like Land Raider size, maybe a little smaller. But,
yeah.
So triple repulsor executioner. One of them for this particular event has the macroplasma incinerator, the damage 3 d6+1 blast shot. The other 2 have the regular heavy laser destroyer, which maybe is the coolest name you can get. That's mostly just a nod towards Custodes, which I'm personally afraid of, although they did not have a big showing at the event, so that maybe was a waste, but I'm afraid of them. And then you pair that with a 4th enormous 200-point tank, the Redemptor Dreadnought, also with a macroplasma incinerator. And those 4 super big tanks are going to put out a preposterous amount of shooting under oath, +1 to wound oath, and then we'll get into the fact that it's Iron Storm later, but spoiler alert, mercy is weakness. The stratagem makes the whole thing go crazy. That's the core of it. Now, once you have Grillman, Calgar, his company heroes that he has to go with in order to be leading a squad to get advance in charge, fall back in charge, and also just be tanky. And then those 4 tanks, you do not have a lot of points left. And you kind of want to take the Iron Storm enhancements. So you get 2 Tech Marines, both of which, I mean, they're Tech Marines. You don't see them a lot, but they get +1 to hit. They heal a little bit sometimes. And importantly, they take the 2 enhancements, one of which is lethal hits. He picks one thing within 6 and gives lethal hits. That's super important for Iron Storm's Mercy as Weakness stratagem, which gives crit 5s and sustain hits. So you can give one of these Repulsor Executioners crit 5s, lethal hits, sustain hits, and then it shoots its like 30 or 40 something shots. And all of a sudden, the fact that many of those shots are pretty medium bad, like they're strength 4, it doesn't really matter. Because with lethal hits, you're doing things like handing someone 20 saves, and it doesn't even matter if you save on a 2-up, you're still going to fail a bunch. At one point, we'll get into the run, but like at one point, all those stubbers did like 6 to 8 damage to Magnus, just because he like if you make him make 30 saves, he's going to fail 4, so 5 of them, and then those are high value saves to fail. And it's really tough. A little bit of editorializing. It is emotionally challenging to watch a Magnus player look at a stubber that they failed to save that does 1 damage and seriously go, do I need to spend my blank on this? Surely not, but also maybe. That's just a good moment. But that aside, you have your 2 Tech Marines. One gives lethal hits to be able to have your little shots off of the Repulsor Executioners do big value. And the other one has a blank. So blanks 1 damage within 6 inches. That one's a bubble. The lethal hits, you pick 1. But the blank is a bubble within 6. Has to be a vehicle, of course. And that's super helpful because anytime you run into Tau or Mutilith Vortex Beasts or any one of these various weapons out there that are like D6 plus 6 damage, 1 shot that ends your whole career, you need a little bit of insurance because your Repulsor Executioners are both very expensive and have no invul save. So if something shoots at them with AP4 or God forbid AP5 on a railgun, it's just lights out. So that gives you some insurance there. In addition, it's just good value because if you can blank a damage and then the Tech Marine can then heal, all of a sudden trying to pull out a resource to shoot a Repulsor Executioner that you don't know you're going to roll high enough to kill is going to be a very bad situation. Because if you go out, you shoot it, you don't kill it, and then it shoots you and you die, that's probably going to end at least that flank of the game. If not, just put you behind so much that you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
The secret to the Tech Marines also is that this list is extremely light on scoring pieces and like pieces that can click buttons and do actions. And these Tech Marines are a piece that adds damage to the list, but does not need to shoot to do that. They're giving +1 to hit, they're giving their bonuses, and then they can sabotage. And that's super essential because you're putting so many of your points into damage, you just don't have a lot that can do that. And then you're at like 17 or so 100 points. You're kind of out of things to spend points on, and you're stuck trying to have things that can do the actual game and like have OC and play the game or screen, God forbid. And that's where you get to the Tactical Marines, or the lowly Tactical Marine Squad. Again, this is Sean's invention.
Yeah, which nobody ever runs.
Yeah, and he told me about it, and I was like, okay, that's terrible. I appreciate that you have your cool take, but I'm going to replace those with something else. And I could not figure out a way to replace them because, one, they're the cheapest way to get battle line units.
Yep.
Right? They're 140 points, but for 2 squads. So you can't get a battle line unit for 70 points, half of 140 in Space Marines. And this event ran 2 missions with raised banners, so you kind of do want battle line. And then, of course, nothing here has OC, so it's kind of challenging to play the game without them. Don't expect them to do damage. They won't do it. I don't know that they ever even attacked, maybe once or twice. But they also allow you to take the Rhino. And the Rhino datasheet is like really good. And I know that sounds crazy, but 75 points for 10 T9 wounds is just very efficient.
Yep.
And again, if you have no expectation that it does any damage, it will always fulfill that expectation. And so mostly the Rhinos are here to be able to run around, screen if you need an extra screen of Deep Strike, or just touch things. Like many times you can super annoyingly just run a Rhino and charge someone, and if they don't have enough to one-round it, they can just stay in combat with it, hold it there, and be super annoying. Engage in all fronts, right? They're also the fastest thing in the list. You have nothing that moves quickly. They move 12, and that's quite helpful. And then, of course, you can put your attack Marines in your Rhino. And then you can do the whole thing where like you have a piece here which requires 2 separate activations to remove. 1 to kill the rhino if you do it in one go, and then 1 to kill 5 attack marines if you do that in one go. And when they've done that, you've lost like a grand total of 140 points. It's just not a big 145. It's not a big investment. And so the things that are required to kill a rhino are also, as it happens, required to kill a repulsor executioner. And so if someone wants to not lose the game, they have to kill that rhino, and then you obliterate whatever that is, shove your whole army in their face. And they're probably not capable of killing 3 rep-X's if they've lost 1 piece that does that already.
Right. So it's a distraction rhino is pretty much
it's a distraction rhino, yes.
But it's a distraction rhino where you have to deal with it or you're going to lose on primary, secondary.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I was originally planning to take a different list, and I played a test game into this list, and I was so convinced by it because on turn 1, this person drove the rhino onto the middle objective, 2 OC, whatever, I don't care. I put some random piece of crap on there, got at least 2 OC, they didn't control it. But then that rhino immediately drove 12 more inches into my deployment zone, charged half my army, tied up the whole thing, and then stuck right in a place I needed to move out of so that I couldn't get anywhere. And I was like, that rhino didn't kill a single thing. But it did so much damage to both my mental and my plan that it's super worth it. So that's one man's opinion.
No, it's now that you explain it, it does sound like it's good. But when you look at I was like, how did this guy win? And I haven't watched your stream game yet. I haven't had a chance to. I need to watch the streams. I have not watched the streams, but yeah, it's just an example of thinking outside the box. And kudos to Sean for coming up with that because it's nice to see something different than your standard Gladius or Iron Storm list, and the fact that you won the whole thing. I've been a fan of the repulsors, and hopefully you'll start seeing them more. I've been trying to play with them in Black Templar list. They get
the meltas, right?
Yep, they have the meltas. The executioner is just really good, and so the heavy laser destroyer. I mean, because Black Templars they lack their firepower on their main units, but so. Hopefully, I haven't got it to work because without advance in charge, it's kind of Black Templars are kind of But I'm hoping the new codex will do that. But that's exciting, man. So yeah, that was your list. Let's go into your game. So starting with round 1. We just got there in the morning, round 1. And then also, if you could tell us as you're going through it, like what was your hardest matchup? What was just kind of go over a basic overview of your games.
I would be delighted to editorialize.
I'm excited.
First round was against a great Chaos Knights player named Brent, who was a super nice dude. This was one of his first events, I think, in a while. He was mostly there to support the charity. But he had these super well-painted Chaos Knights that he put clearly a lot of time into. And I think he brought a friend over that did a bunch of painting on them. It was super cool. But let me tell you, Chaos Knights have a really hard time against heavy laser destroyers.
Oh, yeah.
That one, I think, is not a very good matchup, especially because Chaos Knights are, I think, in my opinion, paying a lot of points for having every little knight get this like little indirect gun. And he went with stubbers on most of his, so he didn't get the indirect, which I think is challenging. I guess it doesn't do a lot against Space Marines, but the indirect gun is super valuable for like just picking off tactical Marines, which he didn't have. But those knights had a really, really tough time into the heavy laser destroyers, and then just like Gilliman himself is AP4 in melee, and they don't get a save because for whatever reason the like melee Chaos Knights don't have an invul save in melee.
Yeah,
so Gilliman just shreds them.
Yeah, that's usually when I go into them. Yeah, Gilliman's my piece against Knights. And the heavy laser destroyer, it's D6. Is it D6 plus 4 or is it D6 plus 6? D6 plus 4.
D6 plus 4.
Yep.
Which is, I think, it's not enough to one-shot things, but they are super efficient in Ironstorm. So with the Tech Marines, they hit on 2s. They are usually shooting an Oath target because you get 2 of them. So they're hitting on 2s re-rolling. And then their strength 16, I believe, with Oath plus 1 to wound. So they're wounding on, I think, almost everything in the game on 2s, unless you have a -1 to wound and are greater than T8, which is not a lot of things. So like, yeah, like a big knight, like the Abominant. It wounds it on 2s, hits it on 2s. And the Iron Sword attachment gives you 1 reroll floating in there, which you will spend on that wound if you can. So it's pretty much hitting on 2s, rerolling, wounding on 2s, rerolling, handing you 2 AP4 saves. which you are likely to fail at least one and then take damage. And then it gets worse, because if you are damaged in any way, then Mercia's weakness goes off, and you are crit sustaining those heavy laser destroyers on 5s. And if you hit on 2s, mathematically, you are incentivized to just fish. So you roll 2 dice. If you don't get a 5 or 6, you roll again, trying to find a 5 or 6. And you will frequently end up with 3 or 4 heavy laser destroyer hits from your 2 shots.
Yeah.
And that's how you start one-shotting a lot of things. Not to mention, of course, the myriad 6 other guns on the tank that plink 3 or 4 damage in addition.
Now, the Chaos Knights, was he playing the Big Knight, or was he playing a bunch of the Baby Knights?
He played, I think, 2 Big Knights.
Okay.
And then a bunch of little ones.
Yep.
And those Big Knights were really cool.
Yeah.
But not super.
Yeah. Rush, one of our battle brothers, he's gone to the all Baby Knights, because the Big Knights are just, they're scary. When you see them, you're like, how am I going to deal with this? And then you shoot at them and you're like, oh, why was I scared of this? And I feel like that's a lot of problems. Like I have, like I went against Wolf Jail, and I thought that they were going to just crush my Land Raiders. Turns out they have a hard time going into Land Raiders, and I probably lost that game because I played too cagey. So it's a learning point. But yeah, so okay, so that was your first game. Not a good matchup. You won that one. You moved on to round 2.
Yes, I am pulling up round 2. I have to remember it.
Yes. That's the problem I have too.
Is this right? Is round 2 into T-Suns?
I could probably pull up your BEA too, just to make sure.
Yeah. I personally struggle with object permanence, so my memory is terrible. And if I don't see something in front of me, it does not exist.
I have a TBI, so I forget Actually, my list was I have a TBI, so I'm going to ask you 20,000 times what your toughness is, because
yeah, exactly.
That's just what it is.
Yes.
Round
this was a tough game.
You played. Oh, you got it.
Yeah, Walker Juilliard.
Yeah, that's who I play. I played him too. Yep.
He's a cool dude. Yeah.
He is a really cool dude, and he was one of my losses. So not for you though.
I believe we joked about it at the time. He was both the best and worst Thousand Suns player at the event. He was the only one.
Default.
Exactly. No, but this is a tough one. It's interesting. Thousand Suns. I think Thousand Suns have a lot of tough matchups. Against my list, I think it's kind of okay, because they can do damage from sneaky angles, and boy, does Doombolt still hurt.
Yeah,
still suck.
And Magnus is hard to kill. Like he's not easy. And the Doom. I mean, I've never played into him in this edition, so I didn't really underestimate it. I knew they were good. I knew he was a good player, but when he just started, I was like, oh, I'm mortal, and I was like, there's nothing I can do. I mean,
yeah. This is where that Redemptor Dreadnought costs 210 points, has -1 damage, gets infinite CP, so you spend the Ironstorm strat on it frequently to make it T11. It's getting Armor of Contempt whenever it wants. It's really kind of babied in the list, because it kind of glues itself off into Guilliman or Calgar, and they run around together. And if you charge one, you better believe you're charging both, because it's going to heroic in. But Doombolt just kills it. In this game, yeah. If I remember correctly, Calgar and the Dread kind of run up to force action, and double Doombolt just pretty much wipes it off the map. And that's good value, turns out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, Walker was super cagey. We played a very cagey game in which, I went second, which is always the death knell for Thousand Suns, because they really, really want to play defensively and use their trick. They do not want to have to offense or aggress. And then also, the secret tech of anytime you play with Calgar is that you have great secondaries. Because you pitch every secondary you don't, even if you could score it, even if it's, established locus in the middle for 2 points, you can do better. Yeah, you can do better. You deserve better. So you pitch everything you can. And it's very random. So I will say I got lucky in this game that I did get better secondaries than him. But ideally, the math should say you can kind of secretly edge out like a 5-point or so benefit if you are pitching every turn and they're not, because you're only going to get the good ones. And you're very likely to find the ones that score 5 and 6, containment, extend battle line, secure no man's land. And if they are scoring even scoreable ones, but their scoreable ones score for 3, secure not secure no limits, recover assets, for example, you're just getting advantages without having to go anywhere. And so Go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying I learned that from Conan,
Mhm.
watching his game at Adepticon because I never pitched secondaries, and he's like, "You're playing." He didn't tell me this directly, but he said, "You're playing Ultramarines. You have Gilliman, you have Matt, you have Calgar. That's just giving you all this. Go ahead and pitch the ones that are horrible. Like if you got cleanse, pitch it. If you know because I don't score secondaries that well. I don't have a lot of scoring units, kind of like you like, and the scoring units I do have, I want them to do other things. So I'm fishing for bring it down. I'm fishing for, cool the horde. I'm fishing for these things that I can easily get. And I think a lot of new competitive players or amateurs like myself that are just getting back into the competitive scene, they focus so much on I got to do this, I got to do this. You don't really have to. Just pitch it, spend the CP if you have it. Now, if you don't have it, then you just play the primary game. But I
Mhm.
usually focus on primary anyways, and then secondaries are all a bonus. So just what you get to say, it seems like the top players, that's what they do.
Yeah, especially if you have the CP for it, right? Like
Right.
you have more CP than you can reasonably spend with Ultramarines. That's kind of the plan. So
Yep.
there's no reason not to. And this game is a good example of that because Walker was very focused on understanding the score, and to his credit, he figured out pretty early on that like he had to aggress. And so this game ends with him taking a secret objective with Thousand Suns that it's almost always their warlord on your home at the end of the game because Magnus can go wherever he wants. He's very fast. And then me just dropping Gilliman into the center in order to make him engage after we've like picked off each other's little side pieces for 2-3 turns of the game. And then he has to kill Gilliman. So that's Doombolt plus Magnus to the face, which does succeed. Kills him dead. Sad for everyone. Sad for the Ultramarine. Sad for McCrag. But that puts Magnus in the middle. And then he basically asks, can 3 Repulsor Executioners kill Magnus? And the answer is yes. Because if memory serves, I don't know that any of the heavy laser destroyers went through and did their big anti-tank damage. I will admit that I don't remember for sure, but I think this was like the one repulsor with the plasma does like 3 or 6 damage, a grenade does a couple more, and then just 1,000 tiny shots go at the guy between the dev wounds on the Gatling autocannons and just like the fact that a stubber wounds him on 5s because of Oath.
Right.
Means that you're just handing him like 10 plus saves per repulsor. And then you have the grenade plus the tank shock if you need it in the tank. So he did go down, and that is kind of impossible to recover from that point because you're locked in on the secondary plan.
What turn did he go down?
Turn 4. Turn 4.
So even if you didn't kill him turn 4, you still had a chance to deny him the secret mission turn 5.
I believe so.
Okay.
It becomes harder because at that point, I assume Magnus is going to kill 1, maybe 2 repulsors.
Right.
But if Magnus is chilling on like 2 wounds afterwards, the loose grenade from a tech brain, which has the grenade keyword, can always get it done.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, that was the dice gods with you. And I mean, you played a good tactical game with that, but the fact that he went down, there is no recovering from that. And I'm assuming if he would have gotten the secret mission, would he have won, or would it still been?
I think if he got the secret, he was still down by a couple points.
Yeah, I can look up it was 87-65. It would have been a close game.
2-point game.
Yeah.
But it's notable that like if Magnus didn't die in that moment, I'm sure I would have scored less points because he would have killed my army. So I imagine he does win if Magnus does not die to 3 Repulsor Executioners.
Was that your
grenade?
And that wasn't your hardest matchup that you had to face?
No, I mean, as you said, there were a lot of really good players here.
Yeah.
So
So if you're listening to this and you want a tough matchup, go next year because this was an insane game. I wish all the games were streamed so we could watch them all because I'm excited to see how that game went down. But that's crazy.
No, I think that I will say I think that this is a pretty even matchup, but Walker made it very hard, and he put me in a position where I never want to be, which is dice have to go at least okay. Luckily they did in this case. I think the best version of this game would be that I don't even have to be in that position, but Walker did a very good job making that happen.
Yeah, Walker, we joke he's a surgeon, but we joke he's a brain surgeon. He's a cardiothoracic surgeon. Great guy, just very smart. And it translates to his play style. He fun game though. I mean, if I was going to lose to a guy, he's the guy to lose to because he makes you at least feel
and really
good.
nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
So round 3, you go into Battle Brother Juice. He's one of our Battle Brothers. Was that on stream?
That one was. I played on stream. There were 3 stream tables, and I played once on each one.
Okay, cool.
I think that one is on War Games Live, like the Patreon sub channel.
Yep. Okay.
So if you're Patreon, I think you can see that game.
Yep.
And that was a fun one. That is against Biocentic Brood Surge.
Okay.
Which is a riot. Yeah, Gene Stealer Cult. And these guys are charging you up and deep striking you up. It's a weird matchup because one thing that this Space Marine Iron Storm list does not like is deep strike attacks. It just doesn't screen. It can't do it. I remember asking Sean, like, how do you screen? And he said, that's the neat part. You don't.
Right.
Because you kind of just accept that it's going to happen. You're putting so much of your points into damage that ideally you just kill everything that deep strikes, but they're going to get behind you if they want to get behind you.
Right.
You can drop like some tactical marines back there and screen maybe your home objective, but it's hard to get everything and also be aggressive. This game is a lot about me asking very early on if Juice wanted to send it, and he did. This is the classic role of the rhinos. So a rhino runs to the middle objective. I go first. Sprints over to the middle objective and effectively says, like, go charge this with something that can reasonably kill a rhino. And Biosanctum Brood Surge has some great units, but they are usually expensive, big units. They don't really have like a shooting unit that can do it. I think he had one of the little buggies with las cannons, but he kept it in reserve because he didn't want to get it blown up early on. So like a big thing has to come remove it. And then behind that is the heroic force. It's Calgar standing next to Gilliman, standing next to the Dreadnought, and they're all ready to heroic each other no matter where you go. It's going to happen. And so he's like, okay, my best chance is to do crippling damage. I'll use Biocentric tricks to make that happen. And he goes for it. And he does actually a pretty good job immediately on turn 1. Biocentric can do this thing because they have a pile and consolidate 6 strat. So they can charge with 1 unit, charge with the second unit. Unit 1 kills the initial charge target. Unit 2 gets pile and consolidate extra 6, and then finds a new target to kill. And that's exactly what he did. Because I put myself pretty much exactly out of the threat range of his big aberrant unit. And so he has 1 aberrant unit, 1 Gene Stealer unit ready to go. Gene Stealer unit runs in there, charges the rhino, rolls really high. And so it can actually kind of wrap around the rhino, which I did not expect, and get the Brood Lord kind of deep in there. And then the aberrants run in and charge the rhino as well, ready to do that thing. So the Gene Stealers, without even using the Brood Lord, kill the rhino, which was pretty useful because the Brood Lord could then pile in, find Gilliman, and just clip him off the planet. I did not expect a Brood Lord to be able to just take him out. I don't know the math on it, frankly. I think it's maybe to happen because he had 3 or so Gene Stealers also in there. But they send them into the dirt. And then the aberrants pile and consolidate 6 to hit Calgar squad. They do less well because Calgar is just pretty tanky.
People underestimate how tanky that guy is with the company heroes.
And the company heroes are also like so irrelevant to his damage.
Yeah.
He has like 16 wounds that I guess 12 of the wounds almost don't matter at all. And the last wound is last guy is like, okay, it's nice to have that one guy.
Right. It just, my company heroes, I mean, they do a little bit of damage, but I mean, Calgar is a beast.
They're a Calgar delivery system.
Yeah. And I mean, even at 105 points, I mean, they're the best bodyguard unit in the game. You know, people can try aggressors and everything, but I mean, -1 to wound and
16 wounds, 4 wounds each, 3 damage stuff. That's to use 2 of them to kill you.
Yeah,
just kill 1 guy.
Yeah, it's insane. Like it's a staple. I hope they don't change it, but so
we'll see.
So you defeated Juice.
Yeah,
I think I went to how he defeated Juice. He just
the repulsor is really dug out of this one. So, in order to do this one, Gilliman stood up, which does not always happen. Praise be to the Emperor.
You can
the Emperor protects.
The Emperor protects.
Unless it's Aaron Thompson, and then he rolls a 2 on 5 out of 6 games.
Yeah, it's really devastating. I think Gilliman died twice in this event and stood up both times, which I will say is correlated to my results at the end.
And it's always that as soon as you roll, you get that sinking chest feel, and so does your opponent. It's kind of like when Angron comes back. Like you're watching this, like I don't want Angron to come back. I don't want Gilliman to come back, and I think it adds a fun element to it on both sides because when he doesn't, you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna start burning my dice. That if they fail, they're going to dice jail immediately.
I hate it.
Like to roll, yeah. I mean, this tournament, my Gilliman did not die as often, but I mean the team event. I mean, he came back once. It's crazy, and it's only a 3-up. So I'm sorry, getting off of the tangent because we are Space Marine nerds here. Yeah, back to your.
I will just say, you can sign my petition to remove explosions from Deadly Demise, gone from the game. All the stand-up strats should be automatic, and you maybe pay a resource, pay a CP.
Yep.
I don't know, do something, but don't make me roll on a 3-up or a 2-up anymore. It's too devastating when it goes wrong.
Oh yeah.
Especially for something like Gilliman. But he stands back up, and then Calgar really just starts beating his way out of that unit. So that's Calgar really beating the pants off of that Aberrant squad, and then the repulsors just absolutely ice everything else out there in the open. He did a lot of damage, but because that damage didn't stick, it wasn't enough. If Gilliman had gone down, I think we were in real trouble.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like his full send killed a Rhino, the company heroes, but not Calgar, right? His little attachment squad. And then sent Gilliman down, who then stood up. So really, he killed like 200 points of stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And at that point, I can wipe the Aberrant squad plus the leader. The leader goes down, stands back up, kill him again in the fight phase, kill all the Gene Stealers, and then kill like the 1 or 2 other characters that were also out in the open.
Yep.
And that's too much damage. He really does a good job salvaging points and like coming out from there. Of course, he resurrects stuff because it's Gene Stealer cult, but it's just too much damage. And the one repulsor was, I think, touched like in melee just with one guy for like 4 turns out of the game because he kept sending another thing that touched it, but he could never kill it. Right. And every turn it just blasts more points off the table.
Yep.
That was a good one.
Good. And then you went into Josh Campbell, and he was playing his Necrons.
Yes, that Necron list.
Is that the one? Is that the one that beat you, Mark? Or
no, I haven't played against Josh's list. I play against Mike's list, which is similar.
Okay.
Does Mike also have the 20 warriors?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mark was a victim of Deadly Demise. How many mortal wounds did it do when you? I'm sorry to pour salt in that wound, Mark.
Like
but
20 to 30 mortal wounds. I mean, I can handle that. It's the warrior brick that really gets me on edge.
Yeah, this list usually asks a question. Can you kill 20 warriors in a single activation, or can you not?
Yeah.
And like 80% of lists can't do it.
Yep.
And it's very deceptive because the warriors resurrect so much. It's like the beginning of the edition. It really is. That there is no way to chip them down. It's just not going to happen.
Yep.
So if you can't, this is an effectively immortal unit with a lot of OC running around. And you can simply never let it get anywhere, or it will never leave that place.
Yep.
Now in return, that unit plus all of its support costs like almost 900 points. So that list does very little damage, and you can disrespect it all day long. But you're never getting the warriors. Josh and I are teammates. We traveled and to the event together, stayed at a hotel together. So we always pair. It's devastating every time. It's tragic. So we like went to dinner after day 1, and we saw the pairings, and we're like, yeah, that's typical. We've heard at LVO, for example.
Yep.
Just for whatever it's worth, 1,000 people at LVO. Pretty low odds, but that's an aside. But this is an interesting game, mostly because the Space Marines can, like I mentioned, just absolutely disrespect the entire Necron army. So the Space Marines get turn 1 here, and just everything just full sends out into the middle. There's just no way that 2 Doomsday Arcs are going to do enough damage. Even if both can shoot 1 target, they are unlikely to kill a repulsor, especially if that repulsor has the blank, because they're smoking, so they're hitting on 4s.
Yep.
You never know how many shots they're going to roll. They could both roll max 7 shots, and then you're in trouble. But realistically, if they roll 3 or 4 around the average, and half of those hit, and they wound on 3s, and even though they're AP4, you're still like getting a little bit of a save out of it, a 6-up, and then you have infinite CP, so one of them you get armor contempt, and you get a 5-up. They're just not going to likely do it. And it's usually pretty easy, as it was in this game, to make sure you go to places that both of them can't draw a line of sight to.
Right.
Because if those two DDAs want to be in the same spot, that's fine. But then there's just no one covering the other angle. So it's usually one covering one angle, one covering the other angle, and then you expose to one, and that one has very little chance of one-shotting you. So this is a story of running everything to the middle, the Necrons kind of coming out and doing a little bit of damage, but not a meaningful amount. And then me making a mistake. Because at this point, I can push all my stuff into his deployment zone and really try and trap him there. This is the ritual, so it's very hard to stop someone getting primary. So if you have an opportunity to it, especially early in the game, when you're not scoring 15s because there's objectives in every possible universe, it's good to do. But I, in so doing, was forced to charge within 6 inches of the warriors, who you should never allow extra movement. Because the greatest weakness of those warriors is that they are quite slow. So they heroic, they get a bunch of extra movement. That really kind of opens him into the game because he gets a 15 or I think scores something large on his turn 2, if I'm remembering correctly. But luckily, he can't remove more than like Calgar.
Right.
He's forced to rapid ingress the Nightbringer. We actually talked about this after the game. I prepared my list with another teammate who took the exact same list, also played Josh, and had the, I think, misfortune of playing him second because Josh and I talked about this game afterwards and we fixed a couple things. The Nightbringer was in reserve and had to rapid ingress into his own deployment zone because like Calgar was in his deployment zone. And if he could act sooner, I think that would be different. But the Nightbringer starts cleaning up Calgar, but he doesn't move very fast, the Nightbringer. And if he's fighting dudes in your deployment zone, he's not going to make it that far. And so when he eventually does, I think on turn 4, make it out into the middle, 3 repulsors just pick him up instantly because he has to just sprint there to have any chance of getting into the game. So Josh will score a lot of points, but is really hamstrung by the fact that he maxes out his primary pretty early because the Necron Warriors score infinite primary, infinite times. But
you
I'm
can't
also
really
able
ignore
to...
them either, right? You can't just ignore them.
Yeah, this is also a very funny moment too because I tried one turn. I knew better, and I tried to shoot them with 2 repulsors and did near 0 damage and never attacked them again.
Yep.
And then Gilliman, who had run to the center to try and score, was getting charged by these warriors because the warriors will charge him. Some of them die, doesn't matter. They resurrect. The resurrections gives them bonus movement. Gilliman can't one-tap them, so then Gilliman falls back, running away from these warriors, who then chase him down and charge him again to use him for movement. So Gilliman ran across the battlefield being charged by these warriors, I think, for 3 turns, which was very funny. But luckily, I think the Necron struggled with secondaries. Once I aggressively shot all their secondary pieces whenever I could, and the mission-critical rhinos charged their secondary pieces to hold them in place. And he couldn't pull me off primary very easily because it was the ritual, and there were 1,000 objectives. So even though he could pull me off one, there are so many objectives, it's kind of hard to stop the 15s.
Do
if
you
it wasn't
think?
a ritual, probably would have been harder for you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. This was a close game. You got 86, he got 80, so it wasn't a blowout. And yeah, I agree with Mark. If this wasn't ritual, then that's a tough matchup. I thankfully have not had to go against Necron since I've gotten back into the game. I don't know how I've avoided them. But they scare me because of that. I don't have a way to. I don't even think. I mean, I don't know what the World Eaters are bringing, but I mean, even with the World Eaters, I mean, I guess charge them, but still, I don't know many people that.
Well, the
can
problem
take
is
them.
like they kill like half of them that are in combat with you, and then it's just like, all right, cool, you killed the 10 guys that were in combat with you. Now you're not in combat with me. Oh, by the way, I'm resurrecting them, and now I'm still out of combat with you. But now there's 20 warriors black again.
Yeah, it and then it only increases their movement. That's the most insulting part.
Now, was this game streamed?
Yes, this was on Trevi's stream, I want to say.
Okay, I'm gonna watch this game before I watch any of the other games because I am very curious how this went down because that's I know it's a tough list to play against.
I think actually I remember now I misspoke. The GSC game was on Trevi's screen, Tactical Tortoise.
Okay,
This game was on the War Games Live
Patreon.
secondary channel, the Patreon channel.
Okay, I haven't looked at. I'm a member of his Patreon. I'm definitely gonna look to see if that's up because
I recommend it. It was great.
Yeah, Joe is great. And to get back on the BEA, I mean, we had two major streamers there. I mean, Tactical Tortoise and War Games Live. I
It was
mean,
awesome.
if you're looking for an event to go to next year, I mean, this is I mean, Nova, of course, on the East Coast, in the Mid Atlantic area. But man, BEA was it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So
JC, who runs it, has been expanding it every year. And
Yep.
unlike Nova, this one supports charity, which I think is pretty cool.
Well, so you say that we're running a charity event in December in Pennsylvania to raise. I have a charity that we take veterans and first responders, shameless plug, out fishing and whitewater rafting. So definitely look for that. It's called Hammer for Heroes. We'd love to have you there. It's in Chambers, where we're working on the BCP page now. Away Games is going to run it, and
I won't get distracted,
Joe.
but I'm putting it in my BCP now.
Awesome. Yeah. I don't think it's open yet, but it'll be a lot of fun. But anyways, so you took down Josh.
Yes.
And then your next game was Matt Schuckman. Very good player.
Yes.
Old school, like just an old school. When I say old school, I mean, God, I've been playing against him
One of
for
the OGs.
10 plus years. I mean, and he's always been, between him and I mean, Nick Nanavati, all those guys that are well known within the community because they've been around forever. Ganyo, all those guys.
Mhm.
He's like the OG. I think I talked to him after because I after you beat him, I think I talked to him. He was in good spirits, but he was like, "Yeah, I lost."
Yeah, he's a super cool dude.
He
Yep.
is.
He was
And
also my round 6 opponent too.
Yanari.
He got a double taste of Marines. Except I have Desolation Marines, which are actually very useful in the Elder matchup.
Very good at Yanari.
They're very good against Yanari. I ended up tabling him like turn 3 or 4, something like that. So he was really high on primary, but then I was just like, if I just kill your units, well, I'll just pick up the primary in the late game.
Can't Yanari move if you're dead?
Can't Yanari move if you're dead?
so you went into Matt. This is round 5 out of 6. It was a 6-round tournament. How did this game go?
There were 2 Yanari players at the event. And I remember looking at everything before the event and thinking, I think I have an even or winning matchup in just about everything here except for Yanari.
I think
there's only 2.
Was Austin Wingfield the other one? Or did he play?
The other one was round 6.
Oh, okay. Spoiler alert.
Austin, probably to his credit, also took Eldar, but take a look at his list because it's pretty fun. He took Aspect Host, and he took one of every Phoenix Lord, including the one that does not exist, and he renamed his Autarch Karandras, which is pretty cute, I think.
Yeah, I think he's on stream on one of them too. Austin's a really good friend of mine and also a battle brother. But anyway, so you went into Matt.
Yes.
You, spoiler alert, you won this one 90-52, which is a very good win against Matt. Nothing to take away from him or you, but that's an impressive score against him.
Yeah, this is just a classic story of like, if you make the game about who's dead first, the score is not really going to reflect what happened.
That's the Mark Hurdle approach. If they don't
have any units, right?
If they don't have any units, you can't score.
And Mark, I think, is
the enemy cannot score the game if he has no units on the table.
Exactly. Like that's if you want to talk about like pushing differential in teams, which granted we're not going to get too deep into, I'm sure, but that is a really good way to do it because I knew that Yanari has a pretty positive matchup into Ironstorm. No one should take away from this event that Yanari is bad into Ironstorm. That's not the case. Ironstorm has plenty of tools it can use, but the Fire Dragon datasheet is just one hell of a drug. Me and some other folks did a bunch of math on different ways you can manipulate using smoke and AOC and maybe being out of melter range with some of them or like finding some way. No. They one-shot pretty much their Repulsor Executioners almost every time. Of course, dice are dice, but they really should do it. And they cost 110 points, and your Repulsors cost 220 points, and also have other things that are trying to support them that cost points.
Yeah, and I think they're the best army in the game right now. They're hard to play. So you're not that Matt's an average player, but your average player is going to have a tough time with them. But a really good player, I do think Yanari is the best army in the game right now. People will argue with Space Marines, but it's just so many people play Space Marines. So you see a higher win rate. Well, not a higher. Well, you see them at the top tables more. But yeah, so you took that down. Yeah, go over that game.
Yeah, this is a couple things. One, the mission here is Scorched Earth, where the maximum primary you can score is 10. Now that's relevant because Yanari typically is going to walk into this game and most games with like a hypothetical 5 to 10 to 15 point primary advantage because they're just going to get extra primary. So you have to claw that back in secondaries or in murdering them and having them not have a turn 5 score. And that's exactly what goes on in this game. This is another case of really good secondaries. I'm redrawing out of the buttocks in order to get better secondaries. And that really pays off because while he does score like 15 or so more primary than me, I'm held to a 5 almost every turn of the game, and he scores a 10. Ultimately, my secondaries are massively better. And that basically evens out the advantage to a point where we can play a real game. The other thing is that the rhinos are just super mission critical in this matchup. For whatever reason, the rhino is just absolutely terrifying to a Ynnari player because they have very few tools that can actually remove a tank. They're pretty much fire dragons and the Yin Karn if you take her. Matt chose to have Dark Reapers, which do help here, but Dark Reapers are just kind of mediocre, right? They have no rerolls. They have not a lot of support going on.
Only AP2.
Yeah, they're only AP2
and Strength 9, so when you're running on 4s.
Don't let the UK guys hear you say this because they're a big fan of the.
Yeah, but they play on different terrain.
Yeah,
they're
not as good as us.
Yeah, I put them in there because like they're the best of bad options. But this is like Rhino drives to the middle, and I double dog dare you to pull a Fire Dragon unit or something big out to deal with it. So this is every single Dark Reaper pops out and shoots this Rhino, which is fine, but that means those Dark Reapers are not going to stick around for a while. Because the other problem Ynnari has, but they have many advantages, but the other problem they have is a sincere lack of ranged damage. They really only have good units that have to be close. Howling Banshees, the Yin Karn, Fire Dragons, right? Like these guys, the Incubi unit, have to be very close to you to do their damage, and they're using the Lethal Intent Ynnari move to make that happen. So he pulls out his Reapers early, shoots the Rhino, really struggles to kill it, but does get it eventually. And then critically, he also sends out a unit of Banshees. Banshees attached to the Autarchs do good damage, and they want to charge into my Tactical Marines that are kind of also in the middle of the board to try and reduce the amount of scoring units I have. And boy, does that not go well. Yeah. Gilliman, in Operation Heroic every unit, is standing next to the Tactical Marines. You use Gilliman, you use Calgar to cover everything along with the Redemptor to make sure no unit ever gets a charge without being heroic. All three of those units simply cannot reasonably be killed by Banshees. Maybe Gilliman, they could get close, but they really shouldn't. Unless they can like get a grenade off beforehand, which also shouldn't happen if he's standing behind a piece of terrain. So these Banshees go in, they get heroic by Gilliman. Not only do the Banshees roll terribly and not kill the Tactical Marines, which is a real goof on their part, I will say that's not what should happen on average. But then Gilliman, of course, just picks up the whole unit. So I'm up like one good fighting unit in addition to then starting to get an accrual of better secondaries. And so then it's really Matt throwing units out there to try and pull me off of my objective. And again, Ynnari are really good at this, and they're going to get an advantage on primary doing this because there's almost no way to stop them from taking you off your kind of natural expansion, the one that's not in your deployment zone. But it costs them units. And so you just murder every unit that does this and every unit you can elsewhere. And you just absolutely disrespect the shooting lanes. The repulsors are just wide out on the shooting lane. One repulsor at a certain point runs the entire length of the board to arrive at his natural because there's just absolutely nothing that can kill it. And you just have to be super aggressive. Advice from Sean, again, was be 75% more aggressive with this list than you think you should be. Because there's also no stopping Fire Dragons from getting where they want to go.
Right.
Like by being cagey, you're not going to stop them. They can go forward. Yeah. The only thing you have to do is overlap the threat ranges of your units such that if a Fire Dragon unit would ever arrive on the battlefield and smoke something, it can always be counterattacked in the next turn by something. So in this game, that's Gilliman. So the Fire Dragons come in, they blast into oblivion, both a Redemptor Dreadnought, which they're really good at killing, and a Repulsor Executioner. That's like 500 plus points of stuff gone, which is very sad. But then Gilliman walks forward and just domes both 5-man Fire Dragons unit and puts that into the bed. And from there, it's very challenging for me to remove things like Calgar. So Calgar can run up and hold the center and then threaten to run into his deployment zone. And the repulsors, of course, are never going to die. And it's very challenging for him to do stuff. So he throws units out there continually to pull me back on primary, but eventually he just runs out of units on turn 5.
Yeah. Did you find the Redemptor is he performing well for you? I've heard a lot of complaints about the Redemptor. Just a lot of people struggle with it to perform that its points, but it seems like you said, you've taken this list and you've tried to. I've done the same thing with Mark. Mark will give me a list and I'll try to improve on it, and it never works. How good was he in these matchups? I know we got one more matchup to talk about, but I wanted to touch on that because a lot of people always comment, Redemptors are so expensive, but they have good stats. I mean, they're a 2-up save.
Mm-hmm.
Would you take him
Is
out?
it overpriced? Yes. I won't try and convince you otherwise. It's an
Okay.
overpriced unit. It's really expensive. Its shooting is kind of fine. But I will say, I don't know why they made the codex this way, but regular Space Marines, Ultramarines, just don't have melee units. Like, they're just terrible. Blade Guard vets are like very mediocre. They can kill like little medium units, but they're not punching up. Jump Pack Assault Intercessors are good at killing little guys, but they're not punching up. Like Calgar and Gilliman are the whole plan.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you really do desperately need something to pressure alongside them. Like, you kind of need a third unit to do that. That's where it comes in. It's also specifically teched for Custodes, which I was very afraid of in this particular event. I think that they're very good. I don't know why I don't see them more. But it has a damage 3 gun, which is good into Custodes, and -1 damage is really devastating to almost any melee unit, because most of them are damage 2. Like Wardens are damage 2, Possessed are damage 2, or like World Eaters, their whole codex is damage 2, except for Angron. Like, most pressure melee armies, which would like to see triple Repex and would just run it to the ground, don't like -1 damage, and they don't like blast 3 damage.
Right.
So it's really helpful for pushing those guys back. They have to be really afraid of it.
Okay. So that gets back into this whole list is, I mean, it's a tournament list. It's tailored to a whole bunch of different matchups, and you happen to not see Custodes. I play Custodes. He only had one of the Caladius, which was nice. And then I could pop smoke and armor contempt, and turns out it's hard to kill a land raider when you only have one, and I get to armor contempt. And but aside from the point, this isn't about me going 3-3. This is about you going 6-0. So your last game, you got through Ynnari, which is who you were scared of the most, probably, aside from maybe Custodes, just to get paired up with Jack Murphy and
with the other Ynnari player, 100% of all Ynnari players.
That's why I'm saying I think they're the best army in the game and in capable hands. So
yeah, they are, and Jack's hands are very capable. Jack is like very young and very good, which scares me as a 30-year-old person.
He is the one. I think he beat Austin. Did he play Austin? He may have. Young guy, right? Like
he's very young. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's quite young.
Okay. So this was an 80-78 game. So
probably he beat Austin in the first round.
Yep. Probably your hardest matchup.
I think so.
Okay. So you go into this, another Ynnari player, 80-78. How did you squeak out this win?
This is a tougher matchup, specifically because it's not on Scorched Earth. This is on Take and Hold, so Ynnari can really get the maximum value out of Lethal Intent.
Yep.
This is another story of the Rhinos just being a huge pain in the butt. Both Rhinos sprint out forward. One drives directly onto the center point to challenge him to pull out his fire ring and to do something about it, or just let it run around and do its thing for free. The other one runs as close as it can to his natural objective to threaten to actually put a good tactical squad's worth of OC on there. The only reasonable way to pull Ynnari off of that objective. And so I'm really hoping that I can convince the Fire Dragons to come out and kill a Rhino and not kill my Repulsor Executioners. Especially because Jack's list runs a 10-man Fire Dragon unit, which it can't choose to only send half of it out there. So it pretty much he has to send it into a Repulsor. He has to find a way that he can put it into split fire into 2 units, because otherwise it's not going to get enough value. Which, spoiler alert, he will do, because he's a smart dude. He also has the adorable Ynnari tech, which I think is super fun, where you don't take the Incubi unit. The Incubi unit is super cool, but sometimes struggles because it's strength 4. and into things like the Redemptor, for example, the Dreadnought. They wounded on 6s, and then they're -1 damage back to damage 1, and they're really sad. But he runs the regular Storm Guardians, which can be joined by Yvraine, and because Yvraine's in the squad, it can be joined by the Vizark. Storm Guardians are trash in melee, but Yvraine and the Vizark alone do most of the damage. And then you're allowed to join 4 Warlocks on, because Warlocks are not characters and just attached to the unit themselves. And they just get 4 heavy flamers that shoot like D6 + 2, strength 7, AP1. So that unit is like a super dynamic unit that like flames a whole bunch, melee's pretty good, and then critically has a ton of OC. So when you're lethal intent moving it around to like get it to kill things, it's also OCing points. Super cool unit. And they're Storm Guardians, so they get a 5-up pinball save. That unit is going to do a lot in this game because he can't really afford to send out his fire dragons to kill this rhino. That rhino gets to do his thing for free. I actually make a mistake here, and I send the rhino too far forward. Let the rangers, which get a reactive move around, and they run to the point, and they're being annoying, preventing me from scoring area denial on turn 1. Boo rangers. But he has a ton of these like little trash units, and I decline to shoot any of them on turn 1 because I don't want to give him the lethal intent move. But on turn 2, after he disrespects my rhino, I am obliged to do it. And the plan here is to shoot them to Kingdom Come, and then set up this rhino or a tactical squad to really charge and gum up the works. Because this 10-man fire dragon unit is in a wave serpent, and that's its delivery mechanism. If I can charge that wave serpent or move block where they want to go, it's challenging for him to get 2 targets out of them, and he needs 2 targets to be the value he needs. In the end, I like get a shot off onto the wave serpent, but I don't kill it because like it just doesn't die to it because it doesn't 5-up pinball save. And then the rhino runs in and charges it to hold it in place, but allows for the heroic from Yvraine's squad. And my theory was Yvraine and the Vizark, without the incubi, could not kill this rhino. And that was not true. They both have dev wounds. They both just reroll wounds and fish for dev wounds. It happens or it doesn't. And in this instance, it happened. It got pretty close. The rhino went down to like 1 wound left, and then a single Storm Guardian with a power sword poked it, and it died. But that freed up his Wave Serpent to go deep, and then it does. So the Wave Serpent runs super deep, drops out his dudes, turns off Overwatch so you can't blast them, and then half of the squad one-taps a rhino, or it's not the rhino, excuse me, a Repulsor Executioner, a little bit more important. And the other half of the squad shoots Gilliman, who is hiding behind that classic kind of pyramid ruin on layout 1. And sends him down into the dirt. And this is another moment where Gilliman really kind of needs to stand up, and he does. So
thank God.
Yep, he marks exactly. And then from there, I'm down a ton of material. So he's down a bunch of his trash because I killed it, but I'm down the Repulsor Executioner, and then I guess however much value you put on Gilliman stand up, plus the Rhino, my trash. I put all my attack marines and such out there to try and keep his primary back and to pen in this Wave Serpent, which failed. So he cleans up all that. So I'm kind of out of trash and out of a repulsor, and he's put his fire dragon out there. So it's on me to really swing back hard. And luckily I do. We kill the 10-man fire dragons. We kill the Wave Serpent. Kill a bunch of little like small dudes of warp spiders. But that Yvraine squad is still alive, and it's going to start running the table. So from here on out, the Yvraine squad really gets a lot of action because they push forward. They start flaming. They're going to kill the Redemptor eventually. They're going to eventually get Gilliman as well because they have their grenade keyword and meltas and flamers, and they can get it done. There is a critical charge here. They also failed. I think they were on a 7-inch charge to try and make it to the Redemptor on this turn and try and grab my primary, which they fail. They do roll a 7, but it would break their coherency to actually make that happen. So it ends up being a little bit longer. Which they can't do because kind of a Banshee squad was trying to roll an 8 or a 9 to make it to Gilliman, and they failed. They're in the way. There's kind of a train like jam, not a train jam,
traffic jam.
Traffic jam. I know, I promise.
Train jam would be a little bit worse.
Yeah, that would be maybe more deadly. And that is really fortunate. I think that is a moment when the dice going differently could have really sent this game in another direction. I don't know how it would have ended then, but that allows me like a brief moment of respite to recover. I think like a learning for me from this game is don't open up that heroic with the Rhino. It was risky and it wasn't worth it. Maybe that's the moment the dice goes the other way, but they really could kill the Rhino. It's not unreasonable. And then prioritize this your brain unit earlier. The first turn it walks out into the open, it needs to get shot by a Mercy's weakness repulsor executioner and it needs to die.
Yep.
Although one reason why Ynnari and all Eldar is very challenging for this list is that Mercy's weakness requires you to have damaged that unit, and damaging a Ynnari unit in the shooting phase means letting it run away, and thus not shooting it at all. So you can run into.
I really like the Desolation Marines and the Gladius because they will just pick up an Eldar squad by themselves.
Yes, those Guardians are going to have a really hard time into Desolators. I imagine that tech probably did a lot for you in the game against Shuckman.
It really helped a lot.
Yeah. This game also comes down to time, which I don't feel great about. I think this is one of those cases where like we thought we would have plenty of time, but in the end we had to like grab a clock at the end, and both of us had to like give up on attacks in order. Like I didn't shoot, I think a repulsor or two at the end because I didn't have the time, and he didn't melee some stuff. So like I never like games that come down to that because you never know how it could have gone. And I don't know, that doesn't feel great. But I think Jack was great about it. Like we moved as quickly as we could and got as far as we could. We did get to finish the game, which is the most important thing. But it was very nail-bitey. Ynnari, if it gets a good shot with those fire dragons, can just blow up 500 points of your resources and put you really far behind.
Yeah,
especially
with you have 3 big pieces that are easy targets. So if they take out one of them a turn, I mean that's really devastating. So you got to do the tactical advantage there and kind of try to get some good angles. It's never good when you run out of time, but it's part of the game. I typically don't really play with the clock because I'm not that good yet where I'm going to be winning. So I'm like,
that's fair. It's stressful.
If I'm like, if it comes down to it, I'll just give you the win. Like I'm still learning different armies and stuff. But hopefully next year my competitive game will go straight up. Mark and I are working on that. But right now I'm just trying to get everything painted and have a decent collection. So you beat him, pulled out the win. Impressive win. What advice do you have for any aspiring competitive player or current competitive player? I know I talk to a lot of guys that they are nervous about getting in the competitive scene. I'm like, look, man, like I went 3-3, which I mean I'm proud of myself for because there was a lot of top competition. But I learned so much. Right, I learned so much in those 6 games. Like most people play, if you play a game a week, like that doesn't compare to 6 games in 2 days. I mean, what advice do you have?
It's also stuff you don't have no idea what it does sometimes if you're a newer player.
Right, that's
so
like
you learn so much more.
And to go back on a tangent, like the team tournament, we lost round 2, so we weren't going to win the thing. So I purposely told my captain, "Hey, I've never played against Drukhari. Put me up against them. It's probably not the ideal matchup for me, but I want to learn these guys. So if I go, I'm not going to win the thing anyway. So I might as well learn, And I learn more from my losses than anything.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to current and new competitive players?
I'm going to give terrible advice. You ready? I hear a lot of the time that people recommend you specialize into one army and one like detachment or style within that. I think there is a lot of truth to that. And I wouldn't just go and play everything because you're going to have a bad time. But I do think it is important to make sure that your opponents, at the very least, play a variety of stuff. If you have like a play group and there's like 2 or 3 dudes that you play all the time, try to make sure to go out to either the online TTS communities, that's Tabletop Simulator. There are some great Discord communities out there. Tactical Tortoise, the guy who ran one of the streams, runs one. That's really great. Or reach out to people people you meet at events. Like I was super enthusiastic because this doesn't always happen. But after the event, like 2 or 3 people reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, like let's grab a game sometime." And I get to add new people to my roster who play different armies and test out different things against them. Or you yourself. It's okay, especially with Tabletop Simulator, to try something a little bit different. Try a new army, get a little bit out there, because I think personally, going on a little adventure and trying different styles has really helped me. I started in like Eldar, Drukhari, Craft Worlds, Harlequins, and I would play like the most stupid thing where you're like running around with your tiny little elf man and never getting attacked. And that's very different from how this list plays.
Right.
But it gives you a better understanding of like the critical fail points. And it lets you do things that like Mark is actually a great example of this, where like there are times when you can make a plan that is brilliant in the making and it means that your opponent has no outs. And that's great when you can do it, but it doesn't always happen against a good player. Instead, against good players, you can often open failure states in their plan. This is how these NRA games went a lot of the time, where like you could open a place where someone has good odds, 66% chance something should happen. It probably happens. But if it doesn't happen, they lose the game or they take a massive loss. I see Mark do this a lot. Space Marines is good at this because they have these kind of big, beefy, tanky units that, like, if you whiff on, you didn't do any damage to. And that's a cool play style. And it gives you a lot of options. And you can kind of build plans where, like, okay, they should achieve their goal. And if they do, my game isn't lost. I still have a plan. But here are, like, 3 things that could go wrong. And if any one of those goes wrong, they kind of lose on the spot.
Right.
And that's a cool thing that I learned by trying something new. So I'd say try new things. It's okay. Even if you lose, you will probably be better for it. And you'll have more fun, which maybe is more important.
Yeah, I know. I try to play against different armies. Like I said, I am trying to be a faction specialist with the World Eaters, but I'm always going to have the Space Marines too because I think Space Marines are the ultimate faction because there's literally every playstyle within one faction, so it's easier to collect. I paint all my guys like Celestial Lions, so I could play them as Ultramarines. I could play them as Black Templar. I could do that anyways if they were painted. But some people have heartache with that. Like, why are your opponent just painted with? But so I think that is great advice. I don't think that's bad advice. I think a lot of times I hear. I'm not going to name any names, but I'll hear some of my friends that play, and they'll be like, "Oh, I win every game. I'm the best in my store." I was like, "Well, that's fine." Then you go to a tournament, and you're now big fish, or big fish, small fish, big pond, big fish, small, whatever the saying is. I speak English too. Yeah, yeah. And I feel like, I'm fortunate because Battle Brothers, we have some of the best players in the world. We have Mark Hurdle. I've played him multiple times. I've never beat him, but I learn every time I play him. And eventually I'm going to beat Mark. One day.
Eventually it'll happen.
It may be many years from now. I might be on my
deathbed and I might not be able to roll dice, but you'll beat me.
Insert Braveheart chant, freedom. But it's, and I feel like a lot of people are just scared. They don't like to lose. And I don't think everybody wants to go to GT to win. I go in wanting to win, but I'm not. I'm realistic. I'm like, well, I'm going to learn at this one, and then I'll be better at the next one. So, with that, we're going to wrap up. What's your next event you're going to? Your next big event?
Great question. I think it's Dallas. I think it's the Dallas Open.
Okay. Where are you from?
I'm from DC, Washington, D.C.
Okay, so you're near us. I'm up in Pennsylvania, about an hour and a half away, and Mark's kind of near you as well. So you're not going to the Richmond Open?
Yeah, like half an hour or so.
I would love to go to the Richmond Open, but I'm a 30-year-old person, and that means everyone in my life is getting married. So all of a sudden, there's all these weddings that interrupt with my busy 40K schedule.
We have a battle brother that has a bachelor party that weekend. Josh Kinder. So, and actually they're playing a bunch of 40K games, I think. That's their bachelor party with Kinder's a world-class painter. So they're playing with all the models that he's painted. It's going to be pretty cool. Mark and I are going to Richmond Open though. But which brings us to our next upcoming events. So we got Richmond Open May 3rd through the 4th, and your Hobby Place GT May 24th to the 25th. Then we'll be getting into ATC, I think. Some of the Battle Brothers are going to. Mark's going to Atlantic City.
I'll be going to Atlantic City, yeah.
Yep. I don't think any of us are going to Dallas. I'd like to go next year. And then Nova's coming around the corner. So
sooner than you think.
Yeah, you'll be there, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah. You gotta go to Nova. I live in DC. You gotta go.
Yeah, if you, I think that is one of my favorite. Not only it's just a great atmosphere. GW is heavily represented there. The vendors are fun to walk around. Like play in that GT. It's 400 and some players.
It's a lot.
Hopefully tickets go on sale tomorrow, which will probably be today because I think we're gonna post this podcast tomorrow. But hopefully it goes well because the last time it shut down everything. But I'm trying to get. They have a new game store near me, and it's a lot of new players, and I'm trying to get them into the competitive scene because I was like, that's the way you learn. And then you meet people, you can room with them, cut down on costs. So. Well, Zach, we appreciate you coming on and talking and going over this. I guess the next time I'll see you is at Nova, and hopefully I don't have to play you. But if I do have to play you, we'll be drinking a beer and having a good time because I'm going to
Hell yeah.
definitely learn from you. Hopefully I'll have my World Eaters by then, but who knows? I'll be playing Space Marines always anyway. So thanks for joining
Well, these
us.
are a kind of Space Marines.
What's that?
True.
A Chaos Space Marine.
It is a
Heretic Space
chaos. It is. I don't know why I want to play World. It's Angron, and unfortunately the leaks have kind of ruined him. And he's one of my favorite models, but I don't know. You hear these leaks about things, and we're not going to get into the leaks. If you want to listen to the leaks, check out Blog for the Blood God. But you never know what's going to happen to the Codex has, and I think I'm just excited to try. I like melee stuff. I think melee is underrated in this edition, if played right. It's easier on a lot of terrain, it's easy to hide from shooting angles.
Mhm.
I feel like it's underutilized, but I feel like it's going to be harder to play than my Space Marines are right now. Redeemers are pretty point and click, especially with Overwatch and everything. But I want to try something new. I'm tired of playing the same thing as Mark because Mark goes undefeated, and then there's me. So it's like, oh well, it wasn't the list. It was clearly the player. So then I could blame my list for World Eaters maybe. But
There you go.
Better that way.
anyways, Zach, it was a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on and talking to us. And then hopefully we'll have you back on after Dallas Open because I don't think any of
Yeah.
us are going there. Hopefully, even if it's just to talk about your experience there,
Yeah, I'd
hopefully
love to.
you are the champion and we're talking about
I'm
that game.
sure. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. When I come back, champion of Dallas, I'll let you know.
Well,
On your shield or with it.
and a lot of people
Yeah.
don't.
Or with
Well,
the shield or on it, yeah.
a lot of people don't realize that this BEA was a gold ticket event. You already had a gold ticket.
Yeah, I won, I
And
think, from RMO, from Rocky Mountain. Yeah.
yep. So you got the golden ticket there. You got the orange ticket here for Nova, correct? Yep. So you're going to Nova free. And in fact, so this is how I just want to put this into perspective for people listening. That BEA, the second place winner, also had a golden ticket. I think it went down to and Mark, you got fourth. You had a
I
gold
was
ticket.
fourth, yeah.
You already have a gold ticket because of LVO. Third place
Yep.
won the gold ticket, which I mean, usually it's the best player that won the thing gets it. And this is how competitive this was. So if you really want to go to a local tournament, you're local to the Mid Atlantic region. BEA is, in my opinion, next to Nova, some of the top players in the country, and it's all on the East Coast. West Coast can have whatever. We don't pay attention to West Coast. We are an East Coast competitive podcast, although a lot of our listeners are on the West Coast. But come out to the East Coast challenges. I'd like to do that. I'd like to have an East Coast versus West Coast thing like we used to with Beast Coast. But anyways, done with the tangent. Zach, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Yep, you too.